So, back again. We're talking about the militia groups that I've been fortunate enough to have encounters with. So, we're talking about the second one, 15 Foxtrot. And so anyway, yeah, one person other than myself that was in the military, and I found this out too. There are several people that were in these groups that were prior military for a month or two. Couldn't get out of basic training, couldn't hack it, couldn't handle it, didn't like it, cried home to mommy and daddy saying it was too rough. So this is really, in my opinion, and I know there's probably people out there that are in militia groups that aren't going to like me for saying, and I'm not talking about their particular group. I've only had encounters with 3 in my state. They've all been in my state. So, if I'm not talking about you directly, then I'm not talking about you. And if I am talking about you directly, that's my opinion. That's how I saw it. Plus, I'm not going to mention your names. So how do you know I'm talking about you unless you recognize it? And if you recognize what I'm saying to be true, then why bitch because I'm saying something that's true? So anyway, the second group, nice people. I liked them, except for the ex-Army Ranger. He was a little out there. So anyway, the day went nice. I enjoyed it. I really did. I had fun. And I would have hung out with them. I would have not joined them, but I would have hung out with them and trained with them and, did what I could to support them. If it hadn't have been for 2 things. One, they were only really looking for money. And 2, we left that day, that night, and I got back home. And a couple days later, I get an email pushing me into joining the little group. And finally I told him, I said, I'm just not interested. It's just I don't think that I'm really interested, and I'm just not really wanting to throw out finances, for something that I can do for free. And in that email, he asked to see my DD-214, I don't know, birth certificate. He had a handful of documents that he wanted from me. And I said, no, don't think so. No, not interested in sharing that. That conversation went back and forth, I think, for 2 emails. And then he got a little pissed off and wrote back, well, you wanted to join us, and this are rules. And I emailed back, and I said, well, one, I never said I wanted to join you. My statement was I was interested in seeing what you guys did, and I wanted to observe and determine whether or not I was interested in your group. So one thing I think everybody should remember on both sides of this is that they may be interviewing you, but you have to realize you're also interviewing them. And that's very important. And if they have a problem with that, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with them. And that's just my opinion. So anyway, he went off about how, that's how the rules are, and I was wanting to join them, and I have to abide by the rules. And my comment was, well, 1, I never said anything about wanting to join you. And 2, I'll make a compromise. I will be more than willing to show you my DD-214. He wanted driver's license, social security, or birth certificate, a few other things like that. But I said, well, I will be more than willing to show you my DD-214 and prove that I'm a United States citizen if you do the same thing. You show me yours, I'll show you mine, was my statement. Oh, he did not like that. No, 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 no. That's when the, well, that ain't going to happen. You wanted to join us, and that's just not how things work. You have to show us yours and prove to us. And I said, well, you know, that's fine, but you have to prove to me. If I have to prove to you, you have to prove to me. Well, anyway, that's where it ended. Needless to say, that didn't go well. Then I found out about a month and a half, 2 months later, although the national organization still exists, that particular group disbanded, got rid of their leader. I don't know what they did, but I know they got rid of that guy. And so anyway, that was that one. Now the third one, we'll call 6 November. Found them on the internet. And found out that the one that I just got done talking about, the 15 Foxtrot, was run by another guy previously to this Army Ranger guy. And they actually did a National Geographic documentary on militias. And the Indiana militia was actually part of that TV show, and please don't even watch it. It made the Indiana militia look like freaking morons. And when I went to talk with 15 Foxtrot, they made comment about that guy who was running the militia at the time, and none of them liked him. Every one of them said that he was a horrible person. They didn't like him. He was a moron. He didn't know what he was doing. And I told him I saw the documentary, and I was glad he wasn't there because, you know, in my opinion, from what I saw on the show, yeah, I agreed with whatever they said with that. But, yeah, they said they had already got rid of him, and they got this new guy in and how great he was, but he was the freaking ex-Army Ranger. Whether he was or not, I don't know. He refused to show me a DD-214 because that isn't how it works. But, so anyway, the third group, 6 November, I got in contact with them through the internet, and I mentioned the 15 Foxtrot group. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know them. Our commander used to run that group. And I'm like, oh, God, no, please don't. And sure enough, it was that guy. And I don't remember his name. If you watch the TV show, you get his name or whatever. But it was him. He had started this new militia group. And to be totally honest, I don't even remember what its real name was. I have no clue. So anyway, 6 November, I got in contact with one of the newer members of that group, and we talked for a while. And I said, yeah, I'll come and check it out. Sounds fun. And so he came by. We met at a restaurant, and I went with him to an overnighter. And again, they took me straight to their main place, which wasn't really smart in my opinion, but they did it anyway. And it was night when we showed up, and we were staying at one of the guys' houses, and in his backyard he had a massive woods, and that's where they did their main training. And there was a lot wrong with this group, in all honesty. First of all, nobody in that group had any military experience whatsoever. Not one. Because I always ask. So we're sitting there on his front porch, and they start talking about all these weapons and guns and rifles and all this stuff that they've got stashed away, and how they've got them, they're getting them and they're on order and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm starting to actually get a little worried because You know, people may consider me an extremist and a crazy, wild person, but, you know, the way these guys were talking about their weapons kind of started making me nervous. One of them said, "Hey, you know, I just downloaded the specs on my new rifle. You want to see it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." You know, so he comes out with this piece of paper, and these freaking morons were airsoft. They were doing airsoft. All these guns they were talking about were airsoft guns. Not one of them, I think, owned a real gun. Not one of them had any military experience whatsoever. Come to find out, they were just a glorified airsoft group, and the militia leader was the moron from the National Geographic show about the Indiana militia. So anyway, which I never met the guy, and I still haven't. I don't know, don't really care to. But anyway, as the night progressed, I had already decided that I was not interested in this group whatsoever. Now, there's nothing wrong with training with airsoft. I'm sure that, you know, it gives you the opportunity to shoot at somebody without really hurting them. But the way they were talking, it was just, to me, it was just ludicrous. Nobody knew what they were talking about when it came to preparedness. Nobody had any skills whatsoever for survival. They were just an airsoft group. That's all it was. So I'd already decided that I wasn't going to have anything to do with these guys, but I would still hang out. So anyway, we stayed up really late, and the more and more I got to talking with these guys, the less and less I really liked the situation. So in the morning, I felt sick, so I had to sit around. I sat around and I didn't participate in their playtime. I did observe some of it because what happened was when I woke up, I called my wife, and I explained to her that she needed to come and evacuate me from the situation. So she drove for, I don't know, 3 hours. She drove 3 hours to come pick me up so that I didn't have to hang out with these guys all day. But while I was waiting on her, you know, they got in their little group and they were doing their little training, and it was sad. It just was. First of all, they were all dressed up in camo, playing military, and in my opinion, honestly, from what I've seen, from my experience, from those 3 experiences, they were all just playing military, and not one of them knew what the hell they were doing. You know, if you're gonna do it, do it. That's my opinion. You know, don't sit around and get on your computer and play video games of football and basketball and all that. Go outside and do it. You know, don't be part of these little goofball militias that are like that. You know, if you're gonna do it, join the freaking military. Do it for real. But anyway, you know, they had their little training. They were out in the front yard. They had a woods completely obscured from everything, out and back, and they could have done that. But no, they wanted to sit out in front while cars were going by, acting militia. So we're going to stop right here, and I'll continue on in the next episode. Thank you.